Hello, everyone. Hello. Everybody settle in for a second. So I just want to let you guys know I was super psyched when they told me they wanted me to moderate the brand partnerships and monetization, because I think it's something that we can all relate to. Either we work for a brand or we're partnering for a brand. So it really affects all of us. And I'm hoping that you guys get some useful, insightful information out of our session. So without that, let's get started. So I will start with, actually, I'll start with Hope first. So Hope, you work for Lemon Light. You work for a company that creates a lot of content in a month. I mean, like dozens, if not probably hundreds of pieces of video. And when you're doing that, it's really hard in this cluttered land space to stand out with that type of content. So I'm wondering, how do you make sure that this content that you're creating for all of these various clients are relevant and people want to consume it on any platform?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So we make 200 to 300 videos every single month for hundreds of different clients, mostly short form digital content. So paid ads, videos that go on websites, influencer videos, things like that. And the way that we make each video stand out for each client is different. Mm-hmm. I think the most important part is really about understanding their audience and making sure that the message that we're conveying and the story that we're telling is going to be relevant and interesting to them. So it's no longer about coupon, but it's really about providing value and giving them an experience that they're not getting maybe with other brands. So how do we create that experience for them that's really tailored? So customization and personalization, I think, are really kind of leading the marketing industry right now. And that's something that we think a lot about. Right. How do we create that experience for their customers? And I think because we're leading with that, I think we are having a lot of success by creating content that's very relevant to their goals and to their audience.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard. Well, Christine, let me move it to you. You work for LiveRamp, and you really help a lot of your clients kind of figure out their ROI, because that's what everybody wants, right?
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with clients and you're really trying to help them achieve that ROI, what is the biggest thing that you try to help them understand?
Yeah, well, our company is really a foundational layer in connecting brands and a lot of the content and the entertainment that people are consuming. Mark's session just before this sets it up perfectly. So that data that he was talking about sharing and partnering with studios, our company is actually one of those third parties that sits in the middle and helps connect the data and protect it and keep it private. So one of the most important things that we talk about in our industry, and you'll hear about the theme already in a lot of the conversations today, is collaboration. So the primary way that brands end up driving ROI is with a ton of collaboration, whether that's across their technology partners, it's across other brands, content owners. Really that collaboration is really underlying to get the right message and the personalization to the right consumer.
Yeah, staying with the partnerships, and also we're talking about, I think, kind of leveraging your partnerships. Let's talk a little bit about partnerships and how you leverage those, because you can create all this content, but ultimately you want to partner. And so I'm wondering, how do you both go about kind of like choosing your partners and leveraging your partnerships with your clients?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with this one. Yeah. So again, the technology that we've built is really all about connectivity. So there's all these different sides of the ecosystem that we really try to invest in to make sure that we can help technology players connect together. So we have integrations that help power connectivity with Cox, Comcast, Charter, so your traditional MVPDs. We have partnerships with Hulu, Roku, all of Apple, all of your CTV partners, as well as brands, as well as advertising technology. So I think from where we sit, we invest in partnership as sort of a cost of doing business, and really tons. So the more partnerships, sort of the better the ecosystem thrives.
Yeah. And is it hard though? You want a lot of partnerships, but you want high premium partnerships. You don't want to just partner with anybody.
Yep.
So weeding through all that is
yeah.
difficult, I would imagine.
Authentic outcomes. So, like not forcing a partnership, even sometimes if it monetarily looks like the right thing, just staying with the most authentic connection between goals and objectives of brands.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think too, as the landscape has continued to evolve, what you're seeing is less people or less companies doing everything and more specialization across the board. And so what that means is all of these, specialized companies really have to work and collaborate with other companies in order to be able to provide the customer or the brand the same value. And so partnerships are critical. For us, we have partnerships on all sides, really, because we are so specialized and we are really focused on just creating great content. So we have partnerships on, the like agencies themselves, working with their brands, helping them create content, because a lot of agencies don't have that in-house anymore. And then on the other side, getting data from these data providers to understand what's working online and what are people responding to so that we can provide those insights and that experience for our customers on the other side.
I want to stay with that and just kind of ask you, you mentioned working with agencies and sometimes influencers. Are you ever tasked with trying to figure out the right influencer for them? Because that landscape has gotten like super cluttered. I mean, creating the content is one thing, but then having to find the right influencer and all that is a whole other thing.
Yes. So sometimes, but it's something that we do on a regular basis. It's not something that we specifically do. We work with other influencer agencies that specialize in that and try to understand what our clients or goals are, and then be able to communicate that and create like you said, a collaborative experience so that we are making sure that they are getting the best influencer based on the content that we're creating and the way that we think that it'll be shared. But at the end of the day, we recognize that that's not our specialty, so we work with other people to do that.
Right. Yeah, niche is in for sure. But I would like to ask you guys, what is the most challenging thing right now? Everything's changing. The number of platforms, the number of streaming services, there's just so much for consumers to kind of weed through now. It can almost be daunting and just really challenging. A lot of people probably throwing their hands up, and that's why you see less companies in some respect. But I'm wondering, what is the most challenging thing that both of you face within your companies on a day-to-day basis?
There are so many things that are challenging. I think from a marketing and advertising perspective, I really think it's probably expectations, which is probably true of any company and any part of the company, but making sure that we are aligned with our clients and making sure that we understand what their goals are and what they're trying to achieve, making sure that they understand that, because sometimes it's not always that clear to them or ultimately to us, and then across the board. And so I feel like expectations are really important, especially in a landscape that's changing every single day. Staying on top of that, making sure that we're communicating what we think is best and not always just doing, if we have information that suggests that maybe their plan is maybe not what's in their best interest,
right,
we always try and share that information.
Right.
Sometimes we go in that direction, other times we don't. At the end of the day, it's obviously up to them, but we want to make sure that we are leading and that we are providing valuable information so that people are able to create the best content.
And I would say, just kind of building off that, we really encourage all of the brands that are around us to create a test and learn kind of structure. If you kind of took away what Mark mentioned, his career went from VHS to who knows really, what's going to happen in the next 10 years.
Right.
And so if you aren't constantly investing in some test and learn in the next thing, your career, your company will get left behind. So always be leaning into that next thing. Although do it with with expectations. You will have failures if you're not if you're not leaning in. You're not going to get the benefits of both the upside and the downside. So.
I want to talk about, I hate that word trend, but I'm wondering with both of your companies, have you found, at least within the last year, that there's certain content that seems to be working better or requested more, particularly with you, Hope? I mean, if there is a trend, so to speak.
There are always trends. I mean, I feel like this past month it's been 3x4 Instagram videos. That for some reason has popped up. I know it's been available for a while, but I feel like it's really become more, mainstream amongst our clients recently. It changes all the time.
And it's so hard, I would imagine, to stay. You're creating the content, but then you're trying to stay on top of the trends. Like you've got 1 foot in and 1 foot over here. And I know it must be a challenge.
It is. We have a thing called a social spec deck, which basically outlines all the different platforms, all of the different types of content that they accept. So everything from like the aspect ratios to the file sizes, obviously the lengths, and then the best practices that go along with that. So what are people, there's some obvious ones, right? Like on Facebook, you don't want to play anything that requires them to have audio on because most people are, scrolling
Correct.
through their news feeds without it. So everything from simple things like that to, more complex, nuances. We probably update that document, which is also like we have a shorter cheat sheet of it, like at least every month. It's just always changing. There's new formats coming out. There's new data that's being, gained.
And new platforms too.
Platforms.
TikTok is like
it's exhausting.
It's exhausting for sure.
Yeah.
Well, how do you guys do it?
Today for us right now, the biggest questions we have from brands are how do I move with this consumer who was traditionally in linear TV? So sitting behind the screen on a couch in a living room, watching cable and broadcast in a very traditional way,
right.
to now as their eyes are shifting to all of these different platforms, how do I take those dollars I was spending in one way and really intelligently decide how much do I spend in a different way? And it's a really phenomenal impact because if you think about the way content has traditionally been funded, historically, there's this big thing called the advertising upfronts in May of every year. And advertisers go to New York and they commit hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars each to fund really program creation for the next 18 months. So in May of this year, called 2020, advertisers will go and put up a bunch of cash to commit all the way through September of 2021. And that model is being completely broken by the OTT platforms. So Amazon's going to go make a show regardless of if an advertiser has decided to put any money behind it. And so that changing landscape is creating, I think, a lot of the havoc in how we make content. But then also for brands themselves, they have to decide now how much money to put into that upfront market and commit versus how much to hold back so they can put it into these other really interesting new formats coming available. And their heads are spinning.
Yeah, I would imagine, especially with the upfronts. So much of what we talked about, I think earlier, was just a lot of content and the creativity part, but a lot of data and stats go into choosing the right shows, the right advertising, the right content. And you guys are the data company. So talk to me about how, even though you have this wide array of clients, it all boils down to the data and technology.
Yeah, well, it's changing so quickly. You could take the studios in town. You could take a set of CPG advertisers, a set of automotive advertisers, and everybody has a little bit of a different appetite for how much to change from what they're doing today to where they want to be. There's the really cool phenomenon I see happening is the DTC brands. So your Dollar Shave Club or your Third Love, these brands that are really they're kind of shaking up their individual verticals with a completely data-driven approach. So they do nothing if they don't have the data to support it. And that's pretty fascinating, to see them compete. I mean, you should take Third Love versus Victoria's Secret right now. It's just a really interesting example. If you just are watching the news, Third Love is growing, exploding. If you don't know, it's a sort of a customizable bra that got its start on Instagram.
Right.
And
where everything gets started, right?
But now is moving into TV, but they don't make a move without the data to actually inform what their investment's going to be. Where on the other side of the spectrum, you see Victoria's Secret closing hundreds of stores, shutting down their fashion show. So there's just tremendous amounts of a difference in how companies are making are using data. Just very different ends of the spectrum.
That's great news for you guys, though.
It is, and I mean, data is becoming more and more important. But again, we want to be very, very authentic and true to consumers and what they are willing and comfortable with sharing and with us using. So our platform does have a pretty tremendous opt-out structure. So a consumer can actually come to us and say, I know all of these different people have been capturing my data in tons of different ways. I don't want anyone to use it through your pipes. And so we actually have an approach in a way, not only for a consumer to go and opt out everywhere they may have shared their data, but also directly with us.
Are you finding that more people actually use that?
Actually, no.
Okay, I was just wondering. You offer it, but not a lot of people are taking you up.
Yeah, which is actually a really, I think in the next year to 2 years, we're really going to understand how many people now have the opportunity with the laws that have just been put in place, CCPA being one of them, to truly opt out if they want to, and we will see what they do.
Right. Let's talk a little bit more about your content. Are you trying to grow it and reach out to certain clients that you maybe in the past were a little bit afraid of, but now you feel like you can kind of move into that area?
From like a type of client?
Type of client that you kind of your goal client, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, for our brand specifically, when we started Lemon Light, our mission was to champion the small business. So this was 6 years ago, and we had this idea that video was probably going to become more and more popular. But at the time, I think the average commercial was like $300,000. So that really left most small, medium-sized businesses even without the ability to kind of participate in that space. And as digital, advertising obviously was booming then, and we knew would continue. We knew that more and more companies of that size would need access to that content. So that was really our goal at the beginning, and really kind of where we started was how do we create affordable but still high quality content. And we still do that today. We still work with a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, but what we've learned and what we've seen is we've also gone into this new market that we didn't really expect, I think, at the beginning, which are these large brands, these enterprise brands, Amazon, Google, Facebook. We work with all three of them, but not making their Super Bowl commercial. But what we're doing is we're making, 100 videos with the same budget that they used to spend on one video, so that they can go out there and test it across all of these different platforms on all of these different optimization strategies. And they're looking for solutions like that too. Like, they need to be more affordable and more accessible, and we need to be able to create content quickly. And it's not just about, the single video. When we started, really, you had a video for your website and you could run a pre-roll commercial online natively. Yep. And now, video is everywhere. And I think...
And a lot of people too, I was going to, not to interrupt you, but there are so many other devices out there that allow people to create their own video. And I'm wondering how that has maybe crept into your business model at all. Like, there's so many different platforms where people can just create their own video.
Totally. The way that we think about it is there is a place for, user-generated content and kind of the lower, like, personal content. And there's a place for high-quality content, right? And we think about it a lot like a logo. If you're a brand and you are creating a logo for your business, you can go out there and you can open up, not Paint anymore, but online solutions to create a logo for yourself, and it works and it can be done. But I think a lot of brands will still use an outside company or a graphic designer to actually create a high quality logo because they know it represents their brand in a certain way. And it's the same for video. If you're creating a video that's going to live on your website, it should be high quality and it should be done professionally because it represents who you are as a whole. If you're creating an Instagram story, you don't need a company to do that, right? People are used to consuming, content in a much more organic way. That's a lot more authentic. And I think, that is completely accepted and appreciated in that way. So I think it just depends on, again, their goals and the platforms that they're running it on, to kind of create, to determine how they should create the content.
And the thing that user generated just can't do yet that Hope's company does that I think is amazing is that that slight difference in message, so that a Google or a Cinemark can can build a creative unit, but then they can make it slightly different for, again, what Mark was saying, he was talking about those people who are choosing to use their loyalty program because of the discount at the snack bar, those other people who are choosing the loyalty program because of the rollover points, and to truly be able to take maybe a theme, but then make 200 different versions so that you can give something slightly different to everybody based on the data you know about them is really, I think, the future that the brands are just starting to get their hands around. Like, what I should produce 27 spots, even though it's just one message or one campaign.
Yeah, it's crazy. One of our partners that we work with a lot thinks about it very modularly. So they break up all of their content in chunks of 25%. So we create basically, 4 to 6 different openings, right? That's like, say, the first 6 seconds of an ad. And then the next 25% is, more about the brand. Anyways, multiple different iterations for each of the 25% chunks. And then they mix and match them until they kind of find the perfect combination that's going to convert the best online. Like, that's first of all difficult to do on your own,
Right.
but also that didn't exist years, 5 years ago.
Didn't probably exist a year ago.
Yeah.
It's just the data and the content coming together is, I think, really a very exciting part of the next couple of years.
Do you guys have a favorite platform, especially for you?
I have all of them on my smart TV, and I am totally a show junkie, and I have to binge. Like, if it's not there for me to binge, I don't have time for it. Like laundry and I like the show.
Do tell. What are you binging?
Oh God, that might be embarrassing. My husband will never know I said this, but he got me into Love Is Blind.
Oh my God, really?
We just
I see there's some fans out there. Love Is Blind. A lot of people watching that. Okay. No one's embarrassed to admit it, but they're all watching it. Okay.
What about you?
I've been watching McMillions lately.
Really?
Which is crazy. And I don't know, makes you question everything.
So no network TV then. That's interesting. Everybody's kind of like all the shows on streaming networks.
Yeah, I watch it on Hulu. I think we have...
Yeah.
Or maybe it's on HBO. I watch it through my Hulu app. I don't even know what network it is.
See, this is the crazy part.
All the synergy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the future for a lot of people who are here who want to or aspire to kind of do what you guys are doing. You both have been in the business for a while. You know your stuff. What kind of tips would you give them? I mean, looking back when you first got into the business, what is it that you wish you knew that somebody had told you?
Oh, I have probably 2 things. One, I think you have to start with a mindset that you're going to reinvent yourself 5 times or 10 times in your career. He talked about VHS. I'm going to say a word many of you may not know. I was working on MySpace.
Whoa, talk about predating yourself, huh?
At the time, it was like, oh my gosh, this is world changing. And now it's like, what's the next one? Like, I need to keep reading to make sure I know what it is. So just plan to reinvent yourself. And if it's not every 2 or 3 years, at least 5.
Right.
And then the other one that I really wish someone had told me when I was in college was that your network and your relationships with people are by far the most valuable thing that you have. So skills, important, but really your relationships and your ability to connect with people, no matter what machines do, is still always going to be one of the most fundamental parts of your success.
Okay.
I read a book long ago, in my early 20s, by Joel Kurtzman, and I remember reading this idea then, and I didn't really understand it until I really started this particular business. And it's everything costs twice as much and takes twice as long. And man, that feels so true so often. And I feel like I did have that information before, but I didn't really believe it, or I didn't want to believe it, or I didn't want to understand it, and I didn't want to accept it. And I feel like, the more that I've talked to other business owners and other people in all different, roles, it's true. Maybe it's not always twice. Sometimes it's 4 times. But I think learning to, be flexible and be malleable with how things kind of evolve is really important to both like your emotional state, and then also for the business, understanding that, okay, you know what, this is going to take a little bit longer than we planned. What are we going to do instead? How are we going to achieve this? What do we need to do to achieve this faster? I think that's really important in an important part of any business, really.
Thank you. Well, those are great key takeaways. I'd love to open it up kind of to the audience now and see if there are any questions that anyone have for our two ladies up here. Are there any questions from anyone? Everybody's shy now, right?
I have a question. Did anyone see the Target little girl's party that she did in Target? I saw it. Okay, so I saw it this morning, and I've been watching McMillions, so keep that in mind. And I was wondering, is this true, or is this a marketing campaign by Target?
The savvy person in you saw right away.
Right? Yeah, I was like, man, Target really went all out. Is that just like an altruistic move by Target? The specific, who's a very corporate company, right?
Right.
Or was this maybe a little bit more, premeditated?
Yeah, that's interesting.
You do?
Is it premeditated? Well, I think only reason why I think it was real is because these brands, these big companies are starting to respond to the consumer, especially on Twitter, being huge. Like the girl who made that Renegade dance, and everybody blew up about that and had her flown out for All-Star. Mm-hmm. So it's like these brands are like really paying attention to what these consumers like. I do think they're capitalizing off of it, but I think it's real engagements.
Yeah, that's a good possibility for sure.
It's funny you mentioned that. When I think of good brand engagements, I don't know if you guys see a lot of the chicken wars with the chicken sandwich where they had like Wendy's and then it was like Popeyes got into it and it's like they were going back and forth on Twitter and I'm like, they beef with each other more than like consumers beef with them. It's just interesting, but they've gotten a lot of followers and they have had articles on BuzzFeed written about them. So, I don't know who's managing their social media or whatnot, but in their marketing. But they do a great job of getting people to talk about them when their food is like lackluster. So, it's always interesting to look at that. You have a question?
Great. So I work in the sports space. I've been going on 15 years. I've spent the last 9 years in the NBA, and now I work in baseball. So it's been a very different transition. One of my biggest learning experiences was I realized that some of the equipment companies I have to deal with now don't even make the product that they sell on players, and they do it strategically for marketing and has nothing to do with consumer buy-in. Wow. So Nike's a great example of that. They have 4 targets for professional athletes. They want the top 10 players in the league. They want starting pitchers. They want top level prospects, and they want catchers. They don't even make catching gear. The reason they want catchers to wear their brand is because they have a giant Nike swoosh on the front of every single TV pane on every single game. And so I started to realize that strategically, some of these bigger brands that we think as they are producing products for us to consume, they are actually marketing brands more than they are consumption brands. And there's a couple other examples that I think Nike does that are very well done for this. Another one that they do is Nike LA's team does a legacy summit every year. I got invited this year. It was great. And then I realized very quickly, trust me, the summit was amazing and it was all about women empowerment. But I realized very quickly at the end, the sell was that they were now having their 13.1 half marathon in Los Angeles. And so it turned into all of us signing up for that, all of us talking about that, all of us doing that. It was a brilliant marketing gimmick because you had some of the most influential women in sports in the same room. And then they're like, oh, by the way, we're doing our first half marathon in LA. Are you going to run it? And so it's that kind of thing where I think that we are fools if we don't think that something like that is probably strategic at the end of the day.
Everything is a lie.
You heard it here first. Yeah, that's interesting.
Any other questions?
Go ahead.
One more.
Or which one? Either one.
So I asked a question earlier and I mentioned that I work for a big data company and I work in the communications, media, and entertainment space. Mm-hmm. And working with these, one of the challenges I see with digital, all the data, all the things we want to do with the data is that within the businesses, there is a disconnect between the business and technology a lot of times. So the business has their their priorities, and then IT has a set of priorities. Your companies strike me as they're technology companies. So I just wonder, is that dynamic present in your environment? Is that something? Are you also dealing with sort of that same type of dynamic?
I'll respond sort of from a shift that we're part of is many CMOs, so chief marketing officers, are pulling along their chief marketing tech officer. So maybe either creating a peer role or creating a right hand that is either out of IT or is super tightly aligned to IT, and I'd say all of the smart marketers are doing that in some way, shape, or form, trying to build that bridge. But traditional IT thinking is definitely struggling with that a little bit. Timelines are faster. I would say your marketing team might be a little more fast and loose because their environment is changing. You can't buy a big mainframe and implement it over 5 years. So that's what we see.
And then have you seen that making a bigger, has that been sort of the biggest change that you've seen? And is that working?
I would say in the brands we're working with, definitely it's working. It's working. It's messy, but it's working.
Yeah, I echo what you say.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely been an interesting shift and requiring entirely new roles to be able to navigate it in some cases. And some brands are getting on board and some are not yet.
Thank you.
Right. I think a gentleman over here has a...
Hey there, Yuri from AT&T Sportsnet. Quick question on, because you mentioned TikTok before, and as kind of there's other players coming in like Byte, not to be confused with ByteDance, the owner. So if you have consistently new platforms jockeying for position, how do you decide when that tipping point is when you start pitching it to your customers to go, hey, I know this TikTok thing seems weird. I know Instagram is safer, you're more comfortable with it, but I think it's time to shift some of the materials over there.
I mean, I think one thing is some brands are more experimental than others. So I think it's always easy to have those conversations with the ones that are constantly trying new things. I think you have to know your customers in that regard. The ones that are very conservative and are less experimental, you're probably not having those conversations until you have some proof. That's kind of like the big broad picture, I would say.
And then we try to coach brands 70, 20, 10, 70 in what you know, 20% in that thing that you've proven a little bit of and you're trying to scale. It's in that kind of in between. And then 10% of your budget should be in testing totally new things. So that usually leaves enough room to get some of those new guys in there.
Makes sense.
I like that 70, 20, 10 approach.
Yeah.
I've seen that. It's great.
Hi, I have a quick question. I'm president and CEO of Game Changer Entertainment. I work a lot with the leagues, all 5 of them actually, and I work a lot with the USOC and the IOC. When you're getting a client and you have a intellectual property, an IP, and they don't have the rights to the leagues or to a governing body, do you negotiate for them? Do you want them to negotiate first to make sure that they have the rights? Because in a perfect world, we'd love to have as many great videos with star players and even the word NFL and a lot of the signage from the leagues. But right now it's so territorial and they're making so much money off of their licensing programs. Everything is like a negotiation.
Yeah, that's licensing and rights in video is like it's a huge beast of a situation. Specifically as it relates to league, honestly, for us, we leave that to the brand or the agency that we're working with to negotiate those rights, and then they tell us what they do and don't have rights to. We aren't navigating that on our own.
Yeah, and same for us. We actually, in all of our contracts, we require that the customer's taking on all that liability.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're good.
Thank you guys so much. Hope you like